Chapter 6. Brand New Day. Cracking into daylight after a night that felt like a director's cut of a horror movie, I found Waltham transformed. It had shaken off its gothic novel vibes and donned a technicolor coat of modern hustle mixed with a dash of historical charm. The pain from my ghostly tussle still nagged at me, a less than gentle reminder that even in the afterlife, I wasn't getting off scot-free. As I drifted through the city, the weekend's chill mood offered no comfort. It was like wandering into a party where you don't know anyone, and the office buildings with their shiny facades seemed to give me the cold shoulder. Locked doors and empty lobbies. Not exactly the welcoming committee I was hoping for. My search for a hideout got desperate as it dawned on me that the bruises I felt weren't just on the surface. They were the latest souvenirs in my lifelong hobby of dodging the hard bits of life. Waltham, buzzing with early birds and the old dog out for a leisurely sniff about, felt as alien as a planet in a sci-fi show. Not because I was now a member of the DDC, no. Feeling out of sync was my jam long before I shuffled off the mortal coil. Stumbling upon a shipping yard that looked like it had seen better times, I found my spot. It was a curious mix of the industrial age's leftovers and today's Amazon Prime lifestyle, unnoticed by the living who'd clocked off for the weekend. This place, with its warehouse giants standing like forgotten titans, offered a grim kind of comfort. Cue the grand revelation, in a shipping yard of all places. Who would have thought my spiritual awakening would unfold amidst the relics of Waltham's industrial heyday? This place, with its rusted cranes standing like silent sentinels, and warehouses stuffed with the ghosts of Black Friday's past, was my makeshift sanctuary. It was as if I'd stumbled into the setting of a post-apocalyptic movie, waiting for the ragtag band of survivors to show up. Only the only survival I was managing was of the existential kind. As I meandered through my newfound refuge, I couldn't help but marvel at the stark beauty of it. Nature, in its relentless tenacity, was staging a hostile takeover, with green shoots and wild flowers breaking through the concrete like tiny, defiant fists of life. It was Mother Nature's way of saying, you can't keep a good weed down, and I felt a kinship with those persistent little buggers. This juxtaposition of urban decay and the unstoppable force of nature got me thinking. Here I was, a ghostly figure, wandering through a world that was moving on without me, yet I was part of a cycle much bigger than my own story. It was a humbling realization, one that brought a smirk to my face. If a dandelion could break through concrete, maybe I could find a way to break through my spectral existential crisis. My musings were interrupted by the sound of a distant bark, pulling me back to the reality of my surroundings. A dog, probably out for its morning walk, blissfully unaware of the philosophical breakthroughs happening just out of sight. I wondered what advice that dog might give if it could comprehend my ghostly predicament. Chase more squirrels, perhaps. Or maybe just a don't overthink, just be. The simplicity of that imagined canine wisdom struck a chord. Here I was, caught up in my head, when maybe what I needed to just be. To exist in this moment, in this place, and let the journey unfold. It was a lesson in mindfulness from the most unlikely of teachers, a dog. Embracing this newfound perspective, I settled into my corner of the yard. The city sounds a distant murmur beyond the walls. I thought about the people out there, each absorbed in their own lives, dramas and triumphs. From this vantage point, those dramas seemed smaller, less insurmountable. It was a comforting thought, a reminder that life goes on, with or without our individual anxieties dominating the script. As the light began to fade, casting long shadows across the yard, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. It was the kind of peace that comes from accepting your place in the world, however uncertain or unconventional it may be. I was a ghost, sure, but I was also just another soul on a journey, looking for answers, for meaning, for a place to call my own. And maybe, just maybe, I'd found it here, among the ghosts of Waltham's past and the persistent weeds of its present. In this quiet corner of the world, I'd found a moment of clarity, a slice of serenity in the midst of my tumultuous afterlife. It was a start, a place to build from as I navigated this new existence. So as I leaned back against the cool stone of the warehouse, I couldn't help but chuckle. Who knew that the path to enlightenment, or at least to a less angsty version of ghosthood, would be found in a shipping yard? Life, or the afterlife, sure had a knack for serving up surprises. But for now I was ready to face them, or at least to sidestep them with a bit more elegance than before. As I nestled into my new shadowy nook, the stark difference between my quiet refuge and the lively city scene just a stone's throw away hit me. The yard with its silent cranes and tracks to nowhere whispered stories of a time when Waltham was all about that industrial hustle. Now it was a memory lane I could haunt in peace, a spot where wild flowers dared to sprout through cracks in defiance of the concrete jungle. This accidental haven, overlooked by the hustle and bustle of city life, was a slice of history preserved by neglect and nature's relentless march. Here, among the echoes of the past, I found a moment of respite, a chance to nurse my wounds, both physical and existential. It was a reminder that change and resilience are as much a part of life as death and taxes, though I was definitely done with the latter. Settling into this ghostly retreat, the immediate sting of my spectral beatdown began to ebb, replaced by a deeper, more reflective kind of ache. It wasn't just the physical reminders of my recent skirmish, but the scars of a life spent playing it safe, hiding in work when real life got too real. Coding and problem-solving had been my refuge, a digital fortress where I was king. Rising through the ranks, I'd earned my stripes and a few nerdy t-shirts to boot, but it was never just about the code. It was about proving to myself that I was more than my bundle of anxieties and late-night internet searches for how to adult. The big move to Boston was supposed to be my epic quest. A fresh start in a city of revolutionaries and Red Sox fans. Leaving behind Brixton with nothing but a suitcase, a guitar, and a hard drive full of memories, I was convinced I'd find whatever piece of me was missing. Spoiler alert, changing a zip code doesn't magically fix your inner wiring. Hunkered down in the yard, it hit me. I hadn't left my baggage in Brixton. I'd just slapped a "handle with care" sticker on it and brought it along for the ride. That realization stung more than any ghostly punch. No matter how far you run, there you are, baggage and all. But, as the first light sliced through the warehouse, turning dust motes into glittering specks of possibility, a penny dropped. My real journey wasn't about racking up frequent flyer miles or seeking out new postcodes. It was about facing the phantoms of my past, those persistent buggers that haunted me more effectively than any Hollywood ghost. This moment of clarity, painful as it was, marked a new chapter. It was time to stop running, to turn and face the music, even if it meant dancing to a tune I hadn't chosen. Perhaps in confronting my ghosts, I'd finally find the peace I'd been searching for. Not in the bustling streets of Boston or the nostalgia of Brixton, but somewhere within the quiet corners of my own soul. And who knows, with a bit of luck, I might just make it in time for the grand finale, where the hero discovers that the greatest adventure lies in learning to live with your ghosts, preferably without getting into any more spectral brawls. Cue the uplifting montage music, preferably something by Journey, because let's face it, Don't Stop Believin' is the anthem for us lost souls trying to find our way. Chapter 7. I'll have what she's having. By the second sunrise of my westward wander, a certain pattern started to emerge, like a Spotify playlist on a loop, but with weather and light instead of tunes. Mornings greeted me with a slow-motion spectacle of the sun playing peekaboo, splashing the sky with a cocktail of oranges and pinks. Surprisingly, I found myself soaking in the sunrise like a tourist, basking in its glow, a happy reminder that some things keep spinning regardless. As I walked on, the world threw a curveball my way. Picture this: a sudden shower catching me off guard and out in the open. But here's the twist. The rain didn't drench me, it did a weird number on me instead. a sensation akin to walking through a mist of frigid air, leaving me with a shiver that felt more gossip than goosebumps. It dawned on me that while I might have left my flesh and bone days behind, Mother Nature wasn't about to let me off the hook that easily. This crash course in Ghost 101 had me toggling between awe and a healthy dose of watch your step. Sun-kissed 1 minute, chilled to the bone the next. It was like navigating a world where the rules of engagement had been rewritten by M. Night Shyamalan. Armed with this newfound know-how, I pressed forward, seeking refuge under the stars, or the nearest unoccupied structure that didn't come with its own ghost stories. Here's the kicker about ghosting through life. The star ratings of your haunts, again, pun intended, suddenly don't matter. Forget scrolling for that perfect 4.2 star hideaway. My new digs were all about dodging the living and keeping clear of any wraiths, like my not-so-friendly encounter in Walton. In a bizarre twist of fate, I found liberation in this downgrade. My nightly quest for a roof, or lack thereof, turned into something out of a sitcom. Miles away from my past life's obsession with TripAdvisor, I had to laugh. I was, someone who once booked a room without scouring the views, now perfectly content in a barn that offered nothing but a break from the eerie. It's odd the things you miss when you're on this side of things, like the thrill of a hotel find. Now the adrenaline rush came from a peaceful night, uninterrupted by unexpected wildlife or the whispering wind. This new chapter had me swapping out luxury for survival basics. Does this spot offer a good view of the heavens? Will this abandoned shack keep me hidden from curious eyes? These were my metrics for a night well spent. And, though I traded in the comfort of the living for the unpredictability of the afterlife, there was a certain charm in it all. After all, who else can boast about spending a night under a canopy of stars, or being serenaded by the nocturnal symphony of the wild? As dusk rolled in on day 2, my cautious wanderings led me to an old, abandoned rest stop. A relic from a bygone era of road trips and leisurely pauses. This forgotten spot, with its air of neglect and a whisper of history, felt like a pause button on the fast-forward life of the modern age. There, an old diner stood like a beacon of times past, its door ajar, inviting me into a world paused at a happier note. Crossing the threshold, the place lit up like it had just swiped right on a dating app for buildings. This wasn't just a visual makeover, the place felt alive, buzzing with the warmth of coffee and the echo of laughter, as if it had bottled up its golden years and popped the cork just for me. I wondered, had this diner managed to snapshot its heyday, keeping the good times on loop? Inside, the diner was a time capsule. Shelves stocked with vintage eats and drinks, each a silent witness to the diner's role as a pit stop for souls on the road. The setup was so inviting, you'd half expect a waitress named Flo to come take your order. It was like stepping into a scene where the past refused to bow out, insisting instead on one last encore. The deeper I ventured, the more the air buzzed with conversation, a sound that should have been impossible, yet was as real as the diner's aromatic welcome. For a guy who used to dodge social situations like they were low-flying pigeons, the urge to bolt was overwhelming. But something had shifted in me since crossing over. The old me, the one who avoided eye contact and small talk, wasn't going to cut it anymore. Taking a metaphorical deep breath, because, let's face it, Oxygen and I had broken up, I steeled myself against the nerves and ventured towards the chatter.